This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Tom and Jerry is one of the most iconic and beloved animated series in television history, and I would dare say, my favourite animated series of all time. The animation, the music, the timeless comedy.
One custard pie? Let me have it!
It's all just perfection. I mean, who doesn't love a senseless amount of pain, violence, and even death in their kids' cartoons? But if there's one thing that always kind of bothered me about the series, it's that Jerry could be a bit of a prick. And more often than not, he'd be the one claiming victory at the end of each episode. Not to say that Tom didn't sometimes deserve it, but I always found myself rooting for Team Tom regardless. Thankfully, there were actually a handful of episodes where Tom would come out on top. Unfortunately though, there's never been an official VHS or DVD release that categorizes all these moments together. So I figured, why not make one myself? So in this video, we're going to take a look at every episode in the original series where Tom actually managed to beat Jerry. I'll also be including episodes where they joined forces and both came out on top, as well as those where they both suffered a mutual loss. Because, let's be honest, even if Tom doesn't win, it can sometimes still be incredibly satisfying just to see Jerry lose. Hopefully this Tom and Jerry video doesn't get blocked like my previous one. And man, it sure does suck when you can't have access to the things you want. That's why it's useful to have a VPN such as Surfshark, a powerful app and browser extension which lets you access content from across the world whilst keeping you safe online. With Surfshark, you can securely change your device's location to access websites and shows that might be restricted in your country. It gives you the freedom to enjoy your favourite content from across the world. Surfshark also enhances your privacy by encrypting your internet activity and blocking those annoying ads and malware. Especially useful when using public Wi-Fi, helping you avoid identity theft and fraudulent activity. And for even greater protection, Surfshark now offers an antivirus feature, providing additional security measures and regular scans to help keep your device as safe as possible. If you want to try Surfshark, you can explore the full benefits of it for a 30-day risk-free trial. And if you decide that the service is not for you, you can contact them and get a full refund within 30 days. Just go to surfshark.com/reviews or use the code REVIEWS at the checkout to get 4 months extra of Surfshark VPN. That's surfshark.com/reviews or use the code REVIEWS at the checkout. Thank you Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Now back to the review. First we have The Night Before Christmas, the third episode into the series, and as you probably guessed, it's a Christmas one. The episode begins with the typical shenanigans until Tom manages to lock Jerry out of the house. As Tom settles down by the fire, he hears the cold weather outside and eventually succumbs to his guilt to let Jerry back in, but there appears to be no sign of him. He then finds Jerry frozen outside and manages to warm him back up over the fire, even gifting him a candy cane. As a token of gratitude, Jerry reveals a mousetrap that was originally hidden in Tom's milk and returns to his hole. He then uses his candy cane to retrieve the cheese gift Tom left out on a trap, only to find that the trap was a novelty Christmas one the whole time. Both win. A year later we have Dog Trouble, in which Tom and Jerry encounter an unnamed bulldog, who would later become Butch and eventually Spike. The bulldog isn't friendly and starts chasing both of them around the house. Tom and Jerry put their differences aside and come up with a plan on how to get rid of him, with Tom distracting the dog and Jerry tying up the furniture with string. Jerry then baits the dog to give chase, causing him to destroy the living room and getting chucked out of the house. Just as Tom and Jerry celebrate their victory, Tom accidentally sits on a trap previously placed by Jerry and gives chase once again, where the episode ends. Both win. Baby Puss. In this, Tom is forced to act as a baby for a young girl. Jerry starts to tease him about this and then calls upon some alley cats to torment him even further. Honestly, this is a really abusive Tom episode. He didn't antagonize anything, yet constantly gets berated throughout. And at the end, he is still punished by the girl because he got out of his crib, even though she could clearly see the other cats abusing him. The only saviour of this episode is that Jerry then accidentally swallows some of the castor oil, leading to them both vomiting out the window. So a loss for both, but mostly for Tom. The $1 Million Cat, one of my favourite episodes in the entire series. In this, Tom inherits a fortune from his owner's aunt, but the catch being that he's not allowed to harm any living creature, even a mouse, or else the money will be revoked. So naturally Jerry takes full advantage of this and begins tormenting Tom throughout the episode, only for Tom to eventually snap and decides that perhaps money can't buy happiness after all. This is the first true victory for Tom in the series, and I just love this episode, purely because we finally get to see that smug little rat get put in his place. And I just love this closing line.
I'm throwing away $1 million.
But I'm happy! Yes!
Victory for Tom. The Bodyguard. This episode is also another straight up win for Tom, and was actually released straight after the $1 Million Cap. Guess the writers were feeling a bit of Team Tom that year. Jerry befriends a bulldog after rescuing him from capture, and as a reward, the dog tells Jerry that whenever he needs help, simply give a whistle. Jerry takes full advantage of this throughout the entire episode, until Tom manages to seal his mouth shut with some rubber cement. However, with some incredibly strong lung strength, Jerry manages to break through the rubber cement and begins calling for the dog. As Tom lies there and accepts his fate, both soon realise that there is no sign of the dog. It's revealed that he's once again been captured, with Jerry desperately running after him whilst Tom is giving chase. Victory for Tom. Mouse in Manhattan. Jerry decides that he's had enough of living with Tom, and so decides to leave home and start a new life in New York. And whereas things start out promising, Jerry soon realises that the city life is not what it's cracked up to be, and perhaps it's better to have the devil you know than the devil you don't. He rushes back home, tears up his goodbye letter, and shows his appreciation for Tom. Wasn't sure whether to class this as a victory for Tom or not, but he manages to get through the episode completely unharmed, which may be the only time in the series now that I think about it, and does get some love from Jerry. But Jerry also finds a new appreciation for his home, so I'm classing this as a win for both. The truce hurts. After getting sick of their constant fighting, Butch proposes that the three of them put their differences aside and form a truce to get along as pals instead. The three agree, and in the beginning things seem to be going well. That is until they come across a steak which falls off the back of a meat van, and neither can agree on how to split it evenly. The three begin to fight over it, eventually losing it altogether. Blaming each other, they tear up the truce and go back to fighting one another yet again. Both lose. Old rocking chair Tom sees Tom get replaced with a much younger and faster cat. The new cat, being named Lightning, makes short work of Jerry, but then also frames Tom for stealing food, and so also gets him kicked out of the house. Tom and Jerry decide to work together to not only get Lightning kicked from the house, but to also show that Tom is still the #1 mouse catcher. This episode has a very similar plot to the earlier installment, The Lonesome Mouse, with the key difference here being that Tom doesn't end up betraying Jerry at the end, and actually agrees to share half of the reward with him. Victory for both. Polka Dot Puss sees Tom faking a cold so that he doesn't have to get thrown out for the night, which, you know, fair. So Jerry decides to give him a taste of his own medicine, so to speak, and convinces Tom that he has measles. Throughout the episode, Jerry gives Tom a bunch of quackpot treatments, until Tom eventually figures out that it's all a hoax. He chases after Jerry, but after catching him, discovers that Jerry has come down with actual measles. Tom desperately tries to prevent himself from getting infected, but it's too late, and the episode ends with them both being quarantined. Loss for both. Heavenly Puss, one of the darker entries into the series, as we open up with Tom nearly cutting off Jerry's hand, Tom getting killed, and then witnessing a bag full of drowned kittens. What the fuck? In this episode, Tom is killed and is hoping to board the Heavenly Express. However, he's told that he's not allowed to until he receives forgiveness from Jerry. He has 1 hour to convince Jerry, otherwise he gets sent down to hell. After numerous attempts and pleads, Jerry eventually agrees to sign the document, but unfortunately for Tom, it was too little too late, and he gets sent down into the fiery pits below. Fortunately, the whole thing turns out to be a dream, but Tom isn't taking any chances and immediately goes to show his love for Jerry. Kinda similar to the ending of Mouse in Manhattan, only now it's Jerry's turn to get some love. Victory for both. The Cat and the Mermouse. The episode starts off with Tom and Jerry having a skirmish at the beach, which results in Tom falling off a pier and into the ocean below. There he finds that he hasn't drowned, and also discovers Jerry to be there, but now with a fish's lower half. A germaid, you could say. Boo! Underwater shenanigans ensue until Tom is captured by a large octopus. Jerry actually tries to save Tom, but is unsuccessful. Fortunately, it turns out to once again all be a dream, as Jerry is seen trying to resuscitate Tom shortly after from when he fell into the water. The two shake hands, where the episode ends. Man, 1949 was a bit of a trippy year for the duo, wasn't it? Victory for both. Jerry's Diary, the first time in the series where they did a clip show. In this episode, Tom gets inspired by a radio segment to show kindness to a small animal friend. So he gets a bunch of gifts for Jerry, but finds that he isn't home. But whilst looking inside, he notices Jerry's diary and decides to have a sneaky peek. There he reads about a few of their pastime adventures, getting increasingly angry and destroying a gift with each one. Oh, and hey look, it's where the meme comes from. Eventually Jerry returns home and notices the pie, and asks Tom if it's for him. And Tom, in his good nature, states that it is, and lets him have it. Leaving a perplexed Jerry to stare back at the camera. Victory for Tom. The Framed Cat. In this, Tom is stealing food from the kitchen, but after breaking a bottle of milk and alerting Mammy, he quickly frames Jerry as the culprit. After successfully capturing Jerry and eating his food, Tom goes outside to sleep it off. Jerry, wanting revenge, decides to take Spike's bone and frame it as though Tom has stolen it. He continues to do this throughout the episode, eventually inserting a bolt inside of the bone and having Tom swallow a magnet to have the bone permanently follow him. Spike, Tom and the bone end up running off into the distance, but Jerry accidentally gets dragged along in a tin can and the three run off into the distance. A loss for both. His Mouse Friday, an episode which actually got banned for the most part. This has Tom wash up onto a desert island where he spots Jerry and tries to eat him. Jerry, however, disguises himself as a native and now orders Tom to be the one served up for dinner. Tom eventually discovers the truth and gives chase to Jerry, only to come across an actual group of island natives who actually want him for dinner and chase him down. Meanwhile, Jerry comes out of hiding, but is then also caught out by a native who then proceeds to chase after him as well. A loss for both. Nitwitty Kitty. During an incident whilst chasing Jerry, Tom is struck on the head, which causes him to have amnesia and have him think that he's actually a mouse. Though it seems cute at first, Jerry soon finds this new Tom to actually be more annoying, and so tries to strike him on the head again in order to have him revert back. Eventually he succeeds and is happy to have his old frenemy back. The celebration doesn't last long, however, as Mammy, who is unaware that he's been reverted back, strikes him on the head once more, turning him back into his mouse persona, much to Jerry's dismay. Victory for Tom. Kinda. Smitten Kitten, another clip show style episode, as Jerry notices Tom falling in love with a neighbourhood cat and gets reminded about how this has always wound up bad for him, even though technically he always ended up winning in the end. So with the help of his devil conscience, he heads off to go and sabotage this romance, but gets distracted himself by a female mouse en route, with even the devil mouse managing to find love too. So a victory for both. Triplet Trouble. In this episode, three little kittens are brought over to be looked after for the day, and though initially appearing cute and innocent, they are actually three little terrors. Man, I can see why they were drowned now. Tom and Jerry decide to put their differences aside and work together to take down the terrible trio, giving us one of the most satisfying endings in the entire series. A victory for both. Life with Tom, another clip show episode where Tom discovers a package that was meant for Jerry with a book titled Life with Tom, which details past events between the two, all at the expense of Tom. Similar to that of Jerry's diary, only now, this time everyone else is reading it too. Tom is outraged by this and goes to confront Jerry in a civil manner. Jerry reveals the other part of the post, which states that with this book's success, Jerry willingly decided to split the profits with Tom, and presents a check in his name. Tom miraculously has a change of tune, and the episode ends with him now finding great laughter in the book after all. I guess money actually can buy you happiness. A victory for both. Puppy Tale. This episode actually starts off incredibly dark, as Jerry rescues a litter of puppies who were just thrown into the river. Man, what is it with this series and drowning animals? One of the puppies continues to stick around, and so Jerry reluctantly decides to take him back inside. Tom isn't too thrilled by this and kicks both of them out, but as a storm begins to rage, Tom begins to feel guilty and heads out in search for them, only to get blown into the river himself. Jerry and the puppy are able to rescue him, and so Tom reluctantly agrees that the puppy can stay. The puppy then runs off and barks out of the door, where all his siblings come in and join, with both Tom and Jerry happily watching them enjoy their milk. Victory for both. Hiccup Pup focuses on Spike's son, Tyke, after he's having a bad case of the hiccups, and whenever Spike manages to get him off to sleep, Tom comes along chasing Jerry, which ends up waking Tyke back up. This goes on throughout the episode, and eventually even gives Spike the hiccups as well. This is a pretty typical setup to all the other Spike and Tyke episodes we see, only this one has a bit of a twist ending, where Tom ends up crashing down next to the two, and though ready to accept his fate, Spike and Tyke notice that their hiccups are gone, and so tell Tom that anything he does from now is okay by them. In which Jerry decides to make the smart move and flees home altogether. Hopefully this time he has more luck than he did in New York. Victory for Tom. Little School Mouse sees Jerry trying to teach his student, Nibbles, on how to become an expert in outwitting a cab. Sort of like a role reversal of the earlier episode Professor Tom. The lessons don't go too well, however, with Jerry mostly getting harmed in the process, with the final test being to successfully tie a bell onto the cab. Jerry tries to do this in a sneaky manner, but once again fails. Whilst Nibble tries a different approach and offers it as a gift instead. Having seen him succeed, Jerry resigns from his teaching career and now becomes the student in Nibbles' class, which teaches on how cats and mice should be friends, now also being attended by Tom. Victory for Tom. Neapolitan Mouse is the only episode in the original series to take place in Italy. Here Tom and Jerry befriend a local mouse named Topo, who shows them around the local sites. But they're interrupted by a group of dogs who appear to cause trouble. Tom and Jerry work together to take care of them, where they say their goodbyes, with the episode ending on Tom and Jerry heading back to America. Victory for both. Pet Peeve sees Tom and Spike being told that they eat too much as pets, and so one of them has to go. But the owners can't agree on which one, and so hold a competition on who can catch a mouse, with the winner being able to stay. The competition backs and forths between the two, until they get carried away and cause so much destruction that the owners decide to have both of them kicked out anyway. The owners decide to then keep Jerry as their pet because, as you know, mice don't tend to eat very much. As Tom and Spike are about to leave, they decide to take the fridge with them and run off into the distance. I wasn't quite sure as to whether this should go on the list, but Jerry gets to be the household pet and Tom does manage to come out with a fridge full of food. So I'm gonna say victory for both. You can debate this one in the comments. Southbound Duckling. In this episode, the little duckling character, named Quacker, wants to fly south for the winter. However, being unable to fly, he has to take more unconventional methods. This not being helped by the fact that Tom is trying to foil his every attempt. Eventually, Jerry and Quacker manage to escape on a plane, but it's revealed that Tom has also managed to sneak on board. And just as the two relax on the beach, Tom suddenly appears and traps them under a bucket, and then pulls down an umbrella where the episode ends. Definitely one of the darker endings into the series, as not only is their fate left unknown, but the last sounds we hear is Tom's evil laugh, whilst Quacker desperately calls for his mother. Victory for Tom. Mouse for Sale has Tom learn that white mice sell for a high price, so he forcibly paints Jerry white and has him sold at the local pet shop. Tom has the money hidden away, but unfortunately for him, his owner discovers the money and heads out to go shopping. And as you can probably guess, the thing she ends up buying is a cute little white mouse. Throughout the episode, Tom tries to expose Jerry's true colours, literally, but gets foiled each time, and is eventually kicked out of the house. Tom then notices a tin of white paint and decides to colour himself white as well, pretending that he was merely jealous the whole time. The episode ends with Tom dancing, whilst repeatedly stomping on Jerry. Victory for Tom. Tom and Cherie is one of the 4 Mouseketeer episodes in the series. In this one, Jerry tasks Nibbles with delivering messages to his lover. However, every time Nibbles attempts to make the delivery, he is intercepted by Tom and usually takes quite a savage beating. At the end of the episode, Nibbles is so fed up with the ordeal that he actively refuses to participate in any further fights and simply storms off down the road. I don't actually know whether to class this as a victory for Tom or not, but he does spend much of the episode having the upper hand and does end it being unscathed. And as far as his fate can go in some of these episodes, yeah, I'll class this as a win. Victory for Tom.
I'm God. Suey.
That's My Mummy. This episode begins with a stray duck egg rolling away from its nest, and the hatchling believing that Tom must be his mother. Tom takes full advantage of this situation and spends the entire episode trying to cook the duckling into a duck dinner. But Jerry sees what is going on and intervenes to save the duckling. The duckling, however, thinks that he's being kidnapped and runs back to Tom, even disbelieving Jerry's attempts to explain the situation. Towards the end, the duckling sees Tom cooking up dinner, and when looking at the recipe, realises the awful truth. But rather than run away, the duckling accepts their fate and is willing to sacrifice themselves in order to give their mum the duck dinner that she wants. At the last second, Tom has a change of heart and stops the duckling from jumping in the boiling water, and then even goes one step further and dedicates himself to becoming a full-time duck parent. I think this might be my favourite ending in all of the original series. That line the duck delivers when he says that he still loves his mum despite everything gets me every time.
Goodbye, and I still love you, Mama. No!
Victory for Tom, and everyone in the audience. Busy buddies. This episode sees Tom and Jerry working together to keep a baby safe from the dangers as it wanders out of its crib. Though Tom does get a bit of a beating from the neglectful babysitter, they do manage to keep the baby safe and sound. So overall, I'm gonna say this is a victory for both. Muscle Beach Tom has Tom and his girlfriend spending the day at the beach. Tom unknowingly completely dunks on Jerry, who was already there sunbathing, and the two have a bit of a skirmish. The main conflict of the episode comes from Tom, who is having to compete with Butch from stealing his girl. I'm telling you, Tom, these women will one day be the death of you. Tom uses some balloons to bulk himself up and take care of Butch, but Jerry uses a canister to further inflate them, causing Tom to blow away down the beach, kinda similar to what happened in Saltwater Tabby. After which Jerry tries to lift a couple of tomatoes, but they prove to be too heavy for him and he's crushed between them. Weird, as he's proven to have been much stronger in the past. Either way, a loss for both. Downbeat Bear involves a bear which has recently escaped from the circus, with the gimmick that it will automatically start dancing whenever music is being played. Of course, it ends up at Tom and Jerry's house and starts dancing with Tom. Jerry, seeing this, decides to play with this novelty throughout the entire episode. It ends with Tom finally seizing the radio and throwing it up into the air, which accidentally causes it to switch onto a station which plays nothing but 24-hour tunes. The bear then shows up, and Tom reluctantly accepts his fate and dances with the bear throughout the night. Again, wasn't going to put this on as a victory, but seeing Tom's little grin here makes me feel like that he is kind of on board with the situation, and is somewhat willing to boogie with his newly found dance partner. So you know what? I'm giving it a win for both. Blue Cat Blues. Arguably the darkest episode in the entire series, which sees Tom once again trying to battle with Butch over a love interest. Unfortunately, Tom can't compete with Butch's wealth, and so eventually spirals into depression, and winds up sitting on some train tracks, waiting for his final moment to come. Jerry looks on in sadness, but feels reassured that he'll never be that way, as he has a girl who loves him and only him. Jerry then goes to join Tom on the tracks, as the sound of an approaching train is heard coming towards them, where the episode ends. Yeah, a loss for both. Timid Tabby sees Tom getting a visit from his cousin, who despite looking identical to Tom, has one key difference, and that being that he's terrified of mice. Jerry seems to notice this, and has great fun tormenting the terrified feline. However, Jerry doesn't actually know that this is Tom's cousin, and thinks it's just Tom being skittish. Tom eventually figures out what's going on, and so the two prank Jerry into thinking that he's created some sort of monster, where they chase him out of the house and make Jerry have a mental breakdown. Victory for Tom. Happy Go Ducky is an Easter themed episode where the Easter Bunny leaves an egg for Tom and Jerry. However, the egg isn't chocolate and hatches into a duckling. The duckling immediately starts trying to swim in everything, so much to Tom and Jerry's annoyance that they decide to try and send him back, eventually leaving him in a park pond. Just as they think they now have peace and quiet, the duckling returns and fills the house up with water, and brings along some other ducklings he met in the park. They all swim up to Tom and Jerry and wish them a happy Easter, where the two smile and the episode ends. Victory for both, I guess. Royal Catnap is the final in the Mouseketeer episodes, and fittingly enough, is kind of a remake of the first one. In this, Tom is once again tasked to guard the king from being woken up, and once again he fails. In the first Mouseketeer episode, Tom is punished for this, but in this one, however, Nibbles intervenes and manages to sing the king back to sleep. The three sneak out of the room, shake hands, and immediately go back to fighting. I'm gonna call this one a victory for both, especially as compared to the last time where Tom literally got beheaded. This is definitely a much better outcome for him. Victory for both. The Vanishing Duck. In this episode, Jerry and Quacker discover some vanishing cream and decide to have some fun with it in order to torment Tom. Very similar to the earlier episode, The Invisible Mouse, only in this one, Tom discovers the vanishing cream and decides to get some revenge, with the episode ending with him chasing both Jerry and Quacker. Victory for Tom. Top Watchers, the final episode in this list, and the final episode in the original series. And it once again follows Tom and Jerry trying to save the baby from before. Only this time, the baby actually gets out of the house, so the stakes are upped as Tom and Jerry try and save it from harm in a construction site. Eventually they manage to save the baby and bring it home, but by this point the neglectful babysitter has actually realised it's disappeared and blames Tom and Jerry for kidnapping it. As they are being questioned by the police, they explain to the officer that it wandered off by itself, who initially doesn't believe them, until he sees it crawl past the van and off down the street. Really wasn't sure as to whether to put this as a loss or a victory for both, as they do both get arrested, but after the officer sees the baby crawling away firsthand, I'm gonna headcanon it that they were released and the babysitter was put away for child neglect. And therefore, we get to end the final episode with a victory for both. Which after all they've been through, yeah, I think they deserve it. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching this video. If you think I missed out any episodes or disagree with some of my choices, do feel free to comment below. But until the next one, take care.